The December chill bit through my designer suit as I stood outside the Four Seasons, dutifully parking luxury vehicles for my father's 60th birthday celebration. Each time I handed a ticket to another guest, I felt the weight of the acquisition papers in my inner pocket, documents that would turn this family hierarchy upside down in exactly 47 minutes. Still living up to expectations, I see. My brother Michael smirked as he tossed me his Ferrari keys. Though I suppose someone needs to keep the cars running while the real business people celebrate. I caught the keys with practiced ease, not mentioning that I owned a luxury car service that had recently bought out his struggling dealership. Just doing my part for Dad's big day. Speaking of which, he adjusted his Rolex, bought with the profits from my secret acquisition. Try not to embarrass the family when you come inside. Some serious players are here tonight. If he only knew that half of those serious players worked for me through various shell corporations I'd built over the past decade. The humble parking service company my family mocked was just the visible tip of my transportation and logistics empire. My phone vibrated. Final paperwork signed. Trans Global Enterprises acquisition of Morrison Transport complete. Market announcement scheduled for 8:30 p.m. I checked my watch. 7:45 p.m. In less than an hour, everyone would learn that the son they'd relegated to parking cars had just acquired the family's century-old transportation company for $800 million. Alex, my sister Catherine's voice dripped with false sympathy as she clicked past in her Louboutins. At least you dressed properly this time. Remember last year when you showed up in that awful off-the-rack suit? That awful suit had been a bespoke Tom Ford, intentionally altered to look cheap. Just like tonight's Brioni was carefully styled to appear humble. Every detail of my appearance had been crafted to maintain the illusion of the unsuccessful son. Someone has to maintain standards, I replied mildly, watching her sweep inside with her investment banker husband, who ironically managed one of my smaller holding companies. Through the grand windows, I could see my father holding court at the central table, probably sharing another story about how his real children had carried on the Morrison legacy while his youngest had found his level in the service industry. If he only knew that Trans Global Enterprises, the mysterious corporation that had been systematically acquiring transportation companies across 3 continents, was run by his parking valet son. Mr. Morrison, my actual head of security, approached, disguised as another parking attendant. Everything is in position. The news teams are standing by, and the screens in the ballroom are ready for the announcement. I nodded, checking my watch again. 8:15 p.m. Time to park the last car and join the party. Inside, the celebration was in full swing. The ballroom glittered with New York's elite, all carefully positioned to witness the evening's true entertainment. My father had insisted on having business news displayed on massive screens throughout the evening, a decision that would soon prove deliciously ironic. There's my practical son. My mother's voice carried just enough to draw attention. Alex, darling, surely you can stop playing with cars long enough to join the family photo? Of course, mother, I replied, taking my assigned spot at the very edge of the frame, the same position I'd occupied in family photos since refusing to join Morrison Transport's executive training program 10 years ago. 8:25 p.m. The photographers finished just as the MC called for attention. Ladies and gentlemen, as requested by our host, please direct your attention to the screens for the evening business update. My father raised a champagne glass, expecting to see his company's stock ticker. Instead, the breaking news banner flashed across every screen. Breaking! Trans Global Enterprises acquires Morrison Transport in $800 million deal. Industry giant reveals CEO identity. Wall Street stunned by Morrison takeover. The champagne glass froze halfway to my father's lips as his eyes locked onto the screens. In that moment, a decade of dismissal and condescension crystallized into dawning horror. I stepped forward, finally allowing my carefully constructed mask to fall. Dad, I said into the sudden silence, I believe we need to discuss some changes to the family business. The ballroom fell into a stunned silence as the screens continued to flash with headlines. Alexander Morrison, from valet to transportation mogul, Trans Global Enterprises' mysterious CEO revealed as Morrison Air. Morrison Transport stock surges 150% on acquisition news. "This is impossible," Michael stammered, his Ferrari keys now forgotten in my pocket. Trans Global is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. They're the ones who bought out my dealership last year. Correction, I interrupted smoothly. I bought your dealership. Just like I bought Dad's shipping routes in Asia, Catherine's logistics startup, and every other transportation venture this family touched in the last 5 years. My security team, all disguised as serving staff, moved into strategic positions around the room as I made my way to the podium. The parking attendants outside transformed into executive protection, securing the perimeter. For those just joining this revelation, I spoke into the microphone, my voice carrying the authority of someone who commanded a global empire. Allow me to properly introduce myself. I'm Alexander Morrison, founder and CEO of Trans Global Enterprises. You might know us from our revolutionary autonomous vehicle systems, our quantum-mapped shipping routes, or perhaps from the fact that we now own Morrison Transport. Catherine's investment banker husband turned ghostly pale, no doubt realizing that he'd been unknowingly managing a subsidiary of my company while mocking my car parking business at family gatherings. The parking service. My father's voice cracked. It was all a cover. A rather effective one, I confirmed. Every time you made me park cars at family events, I was actually conducting due diligence on potential acquisitions. Those lowly valet positions gave me access to every major player in the transportation industry. Amazing what people discuss in their cars when they think the parking attendant isn't listening. The screen's updated with more breaking news. Trans Global reveals decade-long strategic acquisition plan. Morrison Transport acquisition completes Trans Global's global domination. Alexander Morrison, the billionaire who parked cars. My mother clutched her pearls, swaying slightly. But your little office in Queens was a front, I explained, enjoying the cascade of realizations crossing their faces. Every time you mocked my simple parking service, I was building the largest transportation conglomerate in the Western Hemisphere. Those nights you thought I was wasting time with cars, I was revolutionizing global logistics. Michael pushed forward, his usual arrogance replaced by desperate calculation. The Ferrari dealership turnaround, those brilliant strategies, were mine. I finished. Every innovation you bragged about at the country club came from my team. Though I should thank you, your constant condescension made it incredibly easy to operate unnoticed. My father found his voice again, though it trembled with barely contained rage. The board will fight this. They'll never accept. They already have. I cut him off, nodding to my CFO, who had been posing as a coat check attendant. She distributed tablets, showing the board's unanimous vote from that morning. You see, Dad, while you were busy teaching Michael and Catherine how to run a real business, I was learning something far more valuable: how to build an empire from the ground up. Every time you made me park cars at another gala, I was making connections. Every time you dismissed my ideas as simple, I was implementing them through Trans Global. The reporters who had come to cover a simple birthday party were now scrambling for positions, their cameras trained on the family drama unfolding before them. But why? My father struggled to form the question. Why reveal everything now? I smiled, remembering all the birthday parties where I'd been assigned to parking duty, all the family events where my achievements were dismissed as mere service work. Because timing is everything in business, isn't it, Dad? That's what you always taught us. Well, that and know your place. Though I suppose I finally do know my place, at the head of the company that just bought yours. The Four Seasons Ballroom had transformed from a birthday celebration into what the Wall Street Journal would later call the Trans Global coup. My father's 60th birthday speech lay forgotten on the podium as financial alerts continued to flood everyone's phones. Ladies and gentlemen, my CFO announced, stepping out of her coat check disguise into an impeccable Armani suit, I present the formal acquisition documents and transition plans. As of 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Morrison Transport is officially a subsidiary of Trans Global Enterprises. I opened the leather portfolio she handed me, savoring the moment. Let's discuss the immediate changes, shall we? First, the executive restructuring. Dad, you'll find your new position outlined on page 4. My father snatched the document, his hands shaking. Senior consultant? You're demoting me to consultant in my own company. Former company, I corrected, though the retirement package is quite generous. Consider it a birthday gift from your car parker son. Catherine stepped forward, her perfectly maintained facade cracking. What about my logistics division? I built that from scratch. Actually, I smiled, you built it with capital from one of my shell corporations. Remember that angel investor who insisted on remaining anonymous? Surprise. The screens flashed with more updates. Trans Global announces complete restructuring of Morrison Transport. Industry experts predict revolutionary changes under new leadership. Alexander Morrison's strategic masterpiece, a decade in the making. My mother attempted her usual damage control. Darling, this is remarkable. We always knew you had potential. Did you? I turned to face her. Was that why you told the ladies' committee last month that I was finding my way with my little parking business? I was there, mother, valeting cars for your charity gala, while closing a deal to acquire the largest shipping fleet in Asia. The ballroom hung on every word as I continued. Every condescending remark, every assignment to park cars, every dismissal of my capabilities, they all contributed to this moment. While you were parading Michael and Catherine as your successful children, I was quietly building something beyond your imagination. My phone buzzed with more headlines. Alexander Morrison's net worth revealed. Transportation mogul joins billionaire ranks. Trans Global's hidden empire exposed. How a parking service became a global powerhouse. Morrison family dynamics shattered by $800 million revelation. Michael, desperate to salvage something, attempted reconciliation. Alex, about all those things I said. Save it. I cut him off. Your performance review is next week. Though I should warn you, Trans Global has very strict policies about personal expenses on company accounts. Those business lunches at the Monaco Grand Prix might need some explanation. The media frenzy intensified as reporters fought for exclusive quotes. Mr. Morrison, how does it feel to be revealed as transportation's most innovative leader? What inspired your covert empire building? Was your family's treatment part of your strategic plan? I returned to the microphone, my voice carrying the weight of a decade's vindication. Success isn't always visible from the outside. While I was dismissed as a simple valet, I was learning every aspect of the transportation industry from the ground up. Sometimes the best view of an empire comes from the parking lot. The ballroom buzzed as New York's elite recalibrated their understanding of power. The son they'd made park their cars had just revealed himself as the owner of their corporate fleets, shipping lines, and transportation networks. You know what's fascinating? I addressed the room. Every time you handed me your keys, you were giving me insight into your operations. Every time you dismissed my work as just parking cars, I was expanding Trans Global's reach. Every time you looked down on the valet, you were actually dealing with your future boss. My father remained frozen, his birthday celebration forgotten in the wake of this revelation. The autonomous vehicle technology, the AI-driven logistics, the global transportation network, all came from your simple son, I confirmed. Every innovation you praised in other companies, every advancement you envied, they all came from a mind you thought only capable of parking cars. As the evening drew to a close, I found myself alone with my family in what was now my boardroom. The silence spoke volumes. Why like this? My father finally asked, his voice hollow. Because you never would have respected it any other way, I replied. If I had come to you with my ideas, you would have dismissed them as naive. If I had sought your approval, you would have suffocated my vision with tradition. Sometimes the only way to prove yourself is to build something so massive that even you can't ignore it. I gathered my things, ready to leave what had become my newest acquisition. The transition team arrives at 8 tomorrow. I have a global empire to run, or as you like to say, cars to park. Walking toward the door, I paused for one final moment. Oh, and Dad, happy birthday. Don't worry about retrieving your car. I made sure to hire actual valets for the rest of the evening. After all, someone needs to park cars while the real business people talk. The look on their faces as I walked out would be immortalized in countless business magazines, a testament to the moment when the family valet revealed himself as the empire's king. As I reached the exit, the sound of shattering glass echoed through the ballroom. Michael had knocked over his champagne tower, his perfectly curated world crumbling like the crystal. One last detail. I turned back, savoring the moment. Those Ferrari dealership strategies you brag about at the country club? I wrote them between parking Bentleys and Maybachs. Quite productive, those valet shifts. Catherine's mascara streaked as she whispered, "But surely you'll keep the Morrison name." Actually, I smiled, producing another document. TransGlobal is rebranding all Morrison properties by morning. Your precious family name will become exactly what you made me, a footnote in the parking lot of history. My security team distributed final packets to each family member. Inside, you'll find your new employment contracts, or in Dad's case, retirement terms. I've been particularly detailed about the section on treating service staff with respect. No more making assumptions about valets. 60 years of business legacy. My father murmured. Gone in 60 seconds, I quipped. Just like you always said about parking cars, timing is everything. The security team stepped forward to escort them out. As I left, I called out, "Don't worry about next year's birthday, Dad. The valet parking is always complimentary for former executives." The headlines would run for months, but nothing could match the satisfaction of that moment, when the son they made park cars revealed himself as the driver of their destiny.